There are sayings deeply imprinted in the minds of many parents. Children are too young to learn. Just let them play. Don't overload them too early, or they'll lose their childhood. Wait until after 6 years old to start teaching. And this belief has gradually caused many parents to miss their child's golden period. Parents will continue to believe this if they are not enlightened with knowledge and do not understand the principles of a baby's brain. The good news is that after today's lesson, parents will gain the knowledge and mindset to understand the principle in a completely opposite way. The stage from 0 to 5 years old is the period when children learn most easily, most effectively, and most quickly in their entire lives. Looking at the picture, you can see this is Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, with his wife and their 2-week-old baby. Mark and his wife both studied at Harvard University. They are highly talented and intelligent people. Mark invented Facebook so that we can communicate with each other across the world. In the picture, Mark is reading a book on quantum physics to his child when the baby is only 2 weeks old, because he knows how the baby's brain absorbs at this stage. Even while the baby is sleeping, the child can still receive knowledge and the words we speak into the brain. Babies develop day and night. When awake, they receive. When asleep, they process information. And surely grandparents or elders would say, a baby that's small knows nothing about quantum physics. They don't have awareness. Just wait until they grow up, can talk and understand, then start teaching. It was not by accident that Mark and his wife showed the world they were doing this. They know that from 0 to 5 years old, children's brains absorb without limit. You can imagine a baby's brain as a bottomless bucket. However much parents put in, that much the child will take in. Even more so, from 0 to 2 years old, the left brain has not yet developed much, and the child only learns through the right brain, which does not reject knowledge, so learning becomes effortless. Another example. All parents know Doraemon has a magic pocket. This cat puts many gadgets inside and can pull out anything whenever he needs it. Doraemon's pocket can be said to have unlimited storage. The right brain of babies is the same. They can take in any knowledge of astronomy, foreign languages, society, geography, mathematics, and absorb it without limits during the stage of 0 to 5 years old, especially without any difficulty. Just like Doraemon's pocket, when knowledge is needed later, even after 6 years old or decades later, it will always help the child. So what makes a child intelligent? Parents can understand 2 milestones of brain development like this. The first milestone. The baby's brain produces brain cells. This begins from the 8th week and continues for the next 5 weeks until the 14th week after conception. At this time, the fetus produces neuroblasts in the brain. These later develop into neurons, around 100 billion in total. The second milestone. Having neurons alone is not enough to make a child intelligent. After birth, neurons begin to form connections with each other. The more connections between neurons, the more intelligent the child becomes. Imagine each neuron has 4 points A, B, C, D, and these connect with each other across 100 billion neurons. The denser the connections, the smarter the child. And how do these connections form? Through stimulation and the input of knowledge during the stage from 0 to 5 years old. We can imagine that in the last 3 months of pregnancy, a baby's brain weighs about 25% of an adult's. By 6 months old, it reaches 50%. At 2.5 years old, it reaches 75%. By 5 years old, it has already reached 90%. That means by the age of 5, a child's brain already weighs 90% of an adult brain. We can see the growth is extremely rapid, expanding each day. As it expands, if knowledge is given, the neural connections between brain cells will form densely. Whether a child is intelligent depends on how many connections form between the neurons. And whether those connections exist in large or small numbers depends on the knowledge provided by the surrounding environment, supplied by parents. This is why Mark and his wife took the chance to read quantum physics to a baby of only 2 weeks old, because they seized every day. At this age, even if we don't intentionally teach, the child still learns, still absorbs. The child's need to learn is always high, and there is no rejection. If we do not teach, the child will absorb both good and bad information. So why wouldn't parents proactively provide good knowledge? Hearing this, many parents may wonder how it is possible to input information endlessly into a child like a bottomless bucket, while adults cannot do the same. Adults have to learn step by step. Learning even one language is difficult, let alone 2 or 3 at once. That is because from age 6 onwards, children, like adults, switch to learning with the left brain. With the left brain, information must be absorbed sequentially, step by step, like waiting in line. But children from 0 to 5 years old are different. They absorb everything through the right brain, which allows knowledge to be taken in parallel, without waiting, if delivered correctly. This is the difference that NaoBaby wants parents to understand. A baby's brain is truly special, truly miraculous in the early years. Our brain does not develop both hemispheres at the same time, but in sequence. The right brain first, the left brain later. The right brain develops most strongly from 0 to 2 years old, even before birth, which is why many mothers practice prenatal education. From when the brain is formed until birth and up to around 2 years old, the right brain develops most powerfully. Experts and professors have recognized this as the stage of the genius brain. Every baby goes through it. The question is only whether parents activate it or not. If parents seize this golden period to activate, the child will be extraordinary. If not, the opportunity is lost forever. Specifically, 0 to 2 years old is called the diamond period, the stage when the right brain develops powerfully and absorbs knowledge in parallel. From 2 to 5 years old is the golden period. The left brain begins to form, but the right brain is still active. After 6 years old, the left brain dominates, the right brain is completely overshadowed, and no longer develops. Yet knowledge absorbed through the right brain from 0 to 5 years old can still be used after age 6 or even decades later. Between 3 and 4 years old is the transition from right brain to left brain, so parents may encounter the so-called terrible twos or terrible threes. That is when the left brain begins to form awareness, and children show resistance, not wanting to do things, refusing to cooperate, even resisting knowledge from parents. In contrast, before age 2, children absorb without limit, without rejection or filtering. Parents are the ones who help filter good information for them. For example, the person who spends the most time with the child will be the one who influences them the most, in speech, behavior, and emotions. From 6 to 8 years old, the child's brain is nearly the size of an adult brain. This means that brain development from 0 to 6 years old has already reached about 90% according to research. To answer the question of how the two hemispheres function and why the right brain is so miraculous, the left brain remembers through logic. There must be A, then B, then C, before we reach D. It is like labor. We must work hard to think, which is tiring. Knowledge must be remembered slowly, not all at once and not instantly. This is why children after 6 years old, in primary or middle school, often feel pressured and must spend hours memorizing. Most people still believe children should wait until older to learn, but then overload them with left brain learning. Parents can imagine the pressure that creates. In fact, the older a child gets, the more learning should decrease, because left brain learning can never match right brain learning. For example, who learns a foreign language more easily, a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old? Science shows that as we age, although we become wiser, our ability to learn decreases. The right brain, on the other hand, can collect information through whole image capture. For example, when a child picks up a toy, they scan it in 30 seconds. That is why parents often think children lose interest quickly. It's not that they are impatient, but because they have already learned it. Sometimes they even break the toy apart to continue learning, which parents often mistake as misbehavior. At this age, children get bored quickly, not because they cannot focus, but because they learn so fast. The right brain does not need logic. It sees and captures whole chunks of information instantly. Its outstanding function is this whole image capture, which allows children to memorize effortlessly, without thought, without strain. Especially from 0 to 2 years old, when the right brain is still empty, absorption is easier than ever. This is a rare opportunity. The more knowledge parents provide in this period, the more the brain develops, without overload, contrary to common belief. Children with strong whole image capture can even recognize strangers and cry, because they have scanned all familiar faces. Seeing a new one, they immediately sense something unfamiliar. The right brain, during this stage, grows the more it is used. Neural pathways branch out, forming connections. But after 6 years old, even if we try to stimulate connections, very few new ones will form, and only slowly, with much effort. Adults can still learn, but it requires patience and energy. For children 0 to 5 years old, however, knowledge enters the subconscious without limit. An example from Jewish tradition. Why are Jewish people so intelligent? They hold more Nobel Prizes than any other group in the world. Their secret is teaching children from a very young age to memorize the Old Testament, even at 2 or 3 years old. They know children don't yet understand, but the purpose is to build a genius memory system. This is how they have raised generations of great achievers. Jewish parents have long taken advantage of right brain development from 0 to 5 years old. Today, NaoBaby shares this knowledge so that parents will never have to say, "If only I had known sooner." After today, you will understand how precious the right brain stage truly is. Take advantage of it now so you don't miss it. If you want your child to learn easily, The period from 0 to 5 years old is ideal. Act as early as possible. After 5 years old, the chance is gone forever. Every day missed is a lost opportunity. The knowledge absorbed will be fragmented and scientifically reorganized for the child to apply. For example, if you flash 10 different dog pictures, German Shepherd, Japanese dog, snow dog, and so on, the child will later see an 11th dog on the street and point, saying, dog. How? Because the 10 examples gave them enough data to fragment, compare differences, and extract common features. 2 ears, a tongue, 4 legs, a tail. That becomes the category dog. Any animal fitting those traits will be recognized as a dog. Some parents make mistakes by not understanding this learning stage and give wrong information. For example, when a child asks, "What is that?" many parents dismissively say, "That's a woof woof," or "That's Kiki." Some even ignore the question. Wrong input leads to wrong knowledge. A child given no or incorrect information has no data to use later. This tells us we must seize the chance to input as much accurate knowledge as possible during the diamond stage, because this opportunity comes only once in a lifetime. The principles of the right brain were studied by Professors Shichida and Glendoman, originally to help children with speech delay, autism, hyperactivity, or even brain injuries. By stimulating the right brain during 0 to 5 years old, they found that even these children, though impaired, achieved results close to normal, recognizing letters, developing reflexes like healthy children. The professors then realized, if this method works for special children, how much more extraordinary could it make healthy children? With all this knowledge from now on, when you hear someone say, "Children are too young to learn," don't steal their childhood. You can understand they simply don't know what you now know. They may make mistakes and later suffer consequences without ever realizing why. But you are fortunate. With this understanding, you can act correctly. And those small, wise actions will make a big difference in your child's life. Now that we know how the brain works, the next important question is, how long do we have to activate these abilities? If we miss the time, the chance will be gone forever. These are the two principles, the decline of talent and the golden period of the child.